Sadie Adler. Sadie Adler's story begins with fire and blood. At the very start of RDR2, her life is torn apart when the O'Driscoll gang murders her husband, Jake, and burns their home to the ground. Sadie is found hiding, traumatized and alone, by Dutch's gang. Initially, she is a broken and grieving widow with no one left in the world. However, as the story progresses, Sadie undergoes one of the most striking transformations in the game. Fueled by rage and an unquenchable thirst for revenge, she evolves into a fearless and deadly gunslinger. She becomes a powerful force within the gang, her skills rivaling even the most experienced outlaws. Yet, her tragedy lies in what this transformation costs her. Sadie's entire life revolves around vengeance, and though she succeeds in hunting down those who wronged her, she is left with nothing when it's over. By the end of the story, nearly everyone she has fought beside is dead or scattered, leaving her isolated once again. Even when she helps John during the epilogue, it's clear that Sadie will never find true peace. Her journey shows how vengeance can keep a person alive, but never truly heal their soul. 2. Kieran Duffy. Kieran Duffy is one of the most innocent and good-hearted members of Dutch's gang, and his story is one of the most shockingly brutal in the game. Introduced as a captured O'Driscoll, Kieran initially appears weak and cowardly, a disposable hostage. However, over time, he proves himself to be loyal, kind, and eager to belong. He works hard to earn the gang's trust, participating in missions and showing gratitude for being given a second chance. Tragically, many members of the gang never truly accept him, always seeing him as an outsider due to his O'Driscoll past. This makes his fate especially cruel. When the O'Driscolls retaliate, they capture Kieran, torture him, and decapitate him. His severed head is sent back to the Vanderlinde gang as a horrific message. Kieran's death is not only shocking, but also deeply unfair. He wanted nothing more than to escape the life of violence he was born into, yet it ultimately consumed him. His end underscores the game's harsh reality. In this world, good men rarely survive. 3. Arthur Morgan. Arthur Morgan's journey is the emotional core of Red Dead Redemption 2 and one of the most tragic stories in gaming. At the start, Arthur is Dutch's most trusted lieutenant and enforcer, fiercely loyal to both Dutch and the gang. He believes in Dutch's ideals of freedom, loyalty, and building a better life for their makeshift family. However, as the story unfolds, Arthur witnesses Dutch's transformation into a paranoid and selfish leader whose decisions lead to chaos and death. Arthur's personal tragedy deepens when he is diagnosed with tuberculosis, a fatal illness at the time. This forces him to confront his mortality and reflect on the life he has lived. Throughout the final chapters, Arthur's perspective shifts dramatically. He begins to see the gang's way of life for what it truly is, destructive and unsustainable. In his last days, Arthur dedicates himself to protecting John, Abigail, and Jack, trying to ensure they escape the cycle of violence that consumed him. His final acts are ones of redemption, showing that even a violent outlaw can find grace in the end. Arthur's tragedy lies in timing. Just as he discovers his true self and seeks to do good, it's too late to save himself. His death is heartbreaking, not only because of what he loses, but because of what he could have been if given more time. 4. Lenny Summers. Lenny Summers is a symbol of youthful hope and intelligence within the gang. As one of the youngest members, he often speaks of wanting a better future beyond the outlaw life. Lenny's relationship with Arthur is warm and humorous, especially highlighted in the unforgettable saloon drinking scene, which gives players a glimpse of what life could have been like if things had turned out differently. Lenny's tragic fate comes abruptly and without warning. During the St. Denis bank robbery, as the gang desperately tries to escape, Lenny is shot dead by lawmen. There's no dramatic moment, no final words, just sudden, senseless death. His potential, his dreams, and his humor are all gone in an instant. Lenny's loss devastates Arthur and the gang, and it marks the beginning of the gang's complete collapse. His death serves as a painful reminder of how random and cruel life in their world can be. Number 5. John Marston. In RDR2, John Marston's tragedy lies in his constant struggle to break free from his past for the sake of his family. John is deeply conflicted throughout the story. On one hand, he feels loyalty to Dutch and the gang, who raised him from a young age. On the other hand, he desperately wants to protect Abigail and Jack, longing to give them a safe, stable life away from the chaos of outlaw life. Dutch never fully trusts John, often belittling him and questioning his loyalty. This tension grows as the story progresses, pushing John further away from the gang and closer to Arthur. Arthur, seeing Dutch's descent into madness, ultimately encourages John to leave and start a new life. In the epilogue, John manages to build a home and provide for his family, but his past still lingers like a shadow. His tragedy is that, no matter how hard he tries, John can never fully escape the consequences of his former life. His love for his family is both his salvation and his curse, as it constantly draws him back into conflict. Number 6. Molly O'Shea. Molly O'Shea's story is one of heartbreak and neglect. At the beginning of the game, she is Dutch's romantic partner, deeply in love with him and believing in his dream. However, as Dutch becomes more consumed by his schemes and paranoia, he begins to ignore her, leaving Molly feeling abandoned and insignificant. This neglect eats away at Molly's spirit, driving her to drink and lash out in anger and desperation. In one pivotal moment, she drunkenly claims that she betrayed the gang by tipping off the Pinkertons. While it's heavily implied that she never actually did, her outburst is taken at face value. Before anyone can investigate or give her a chance to explain, Susan Grimshaw shoots Molly dead in cold blood. Molly dies without anyone knowing the truth. Her life ended not by an enemy, but by those she once considered family. Her story is tragic because it is rooted in love turned bitter and a desperate cry for attention that went fatally unheard. 7. Susan Grimshaw. Susan Grimshaw serves as the gang's moral center and enforcer. She is one of the few members who openly challenges Dutch and demands accountability from others. While she can be harsh, she genuinely believes in maintaining order and protecting the gang's family structure. Her execution of Molly, while controversial, is an example of her commitment to what she believes is right for the group's survival. As Dutch's leadership crumbles and Micah's influence grows, Susan becomes one of the last voices of reason. In the game's climax, when tensions explode and the gang begins to implode, Susan stands up to Micah. In response, Micah shoots her without hesitation. Her death is symbolic. It represents the final destruction of the gang's unity and values. With Susan gone, Dutch's gang loses its last pillar of stability, descending completely into betrayal and chaos. 8. Charles Smith. Charles Smith is one of the few noble and honorable members of the Van der Linde gang. A man of mixed Native American and African American heritage, Charles has endured discrimination and hardship throughout his life. Despite this, he remains calm, compassionate, and deeply loyal to his friends. Charles's tragedy is quieter than the others, but no less profound. While he survives the events of the game, he carries with him the burden of watching nearly everyone he cares about die or disappear. His people, both his family and his cultural heritage, have been systematically destroyed by the same oppressive world that hunts the gang. Even when he helps John build a new life, Charles is painfully aware that peace will always be temporary. His final departure to aid his people is bittersweet. He lives on, but his life is marked by endless struggle and loss.